Hi everyone, welcome back to our YouTube channel, Sistercodes. Today we're going to be talking about people taking credit for your work and how to deal with this and tips on what to do.
My name is Kaylee.
And my name's Ashley.
And we're the co-hosts of this podcast. Before we get started, we would love it if you guys both like and subscribe down below. So thank you guys so much for watching.
Yeah.
All right, let's hop right into it. So this is a very personal episode for you, I know. And this is something we've actually talked about recording for a really long time. So why don't you go ahead and share a little bit about what happened to you that kind of spurred and inspired this episode?
Yeah, so this happened way back in June, I think it was, but I did want to give myself some time to process it and think about it so that I could come up with some good conclusions. But yeah, basically the reason that I wanted to make this episode is because I had someone take credit for my work back in June, and it was such an awful experience that I wanted to share and hopefully help people who might have the same thing happen to them and give you some tips on how to deal with it, and also tell people how you can avoid it in the future.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So
I guess,
I don't know where to start.
Where to start?
Okay, so I am founder of Women in Computer Science at St. Andrews. So I went to school over in St. Andrews in Scotland for 4 years. And I founded this society while I was over there. It was actually kind of Kaylee and my idea. Kaylee inspired me because she started... What was it, Girls Who Code chapter?
Yeah, so I started a Girls Who Code chapter at my university, which was UNC Chapel Hill. And I had been through that process very close to the time that you were in university and you were kind of struggling, because I was also really surprised that there wasn't a Women in Computer Science club equivalent at your school, because that was something that I had found as a really positive and inspiring network of women to kind of lean on and reach out to. So yeah, we were talking about this, and I think you talked at one point about how you wish there was a Women in Computer Science Society equivalent.
And Kaylee was like, just do it. And I was like, okay, I guess I could just do that.
I was. I said, just start it.
I know.
Make it happen.
And it was so much work in the beginning. So I've kind of talked about this briefly in other episodes, but the reason that it was so much work is because there was some backlash to me even creating it. So there is an existing computing society, and basically the admin people didn't understand why we needed a women-specific group. So I had to go through and send a bunch of emails and explain why it was so important to me to have this women-focused group for CS. So it was a lot of work, a lot of backlash, which I was not expecting. I expected, oh, I'm gonna start this society and everyone's gonna be so excited and all this, but that wasn't what I experienced. Anyways, I finally got permission to found the society in January of 2018. So what year of school was that for me? It was my second year. It was my second year, second semester, second year. So finally received permission, which is so great. And I had to start recruiting people because it requires 25 people to get affiliation with the union. And it was so hard to find 25 people. I would just go up to people in lectures and say oh, do you want to join? And a lot of them would say no, which is, kind of disheartening. But you also have to pay a £3 membership fee, which is $4.50 for dollars.
Roughly,
Conversion. But yeah, it was a ton of work. And in the beginning, in January, the only person that I had on my board is my friend Charlotte. And we would just go around with these flyers and go into lectures and try to recruit people. And it wasn't until February that I actually hired a full board of PR person, secretary, treasurer, and then president,
which is what you were since you founded the start of the society.
So in February, that's when I hired all these people, and then the club started to take off and we got more people involved and all that good stuff.
So I remember talking with you, and one of the things that Ashley was working really hard to do was to get sponsorships. She was really trying to grow the membership of the club because it was brand new. So there wasn't an existing email distribution list. There was really nothing. She had to basically build from scratch all of these different pieces, which I remember I was doing similar process at the time. So we were exchanging a lot of, some of the ideas, things that we were struggling with, etc.
I actually wrote a blog post about how to get sponsors
Yes.
for your Wix Society.
We'll
if you're
definitely
first
link
starting
that below.
Yeah,
That's
we'll
a really
link
good
that.
one.
And then also I'm going to write, or I wrote a whole blog post I'm going to publish on Tuesday when this comes out, about like my entire experience, because I just wanted to write about it as a cathartic experience.
Yeah.
But basically the point is that I was president for over a year, during which time I got 100+ members for the society, which is crazy from the initial like 25 that we had. And I got sponsors from Bloomberg, JP Morgan, Google, and Softwire. Which were, again, these are huge companies.
Yeah.
And I had to like go up to people like JP Morgan reps and stuff and just ask them if they wanted to give us some money or they wanted to do like a collab event. And I also designed all of the society's graphics. I got really into Canva and like graphic design. And so I designed the logo. I designed all the graphics for like the Facebook events and stuff like that. But after a year of being president and founder, I decided that I wanted to step down because I needed to focus on my studies, because as you go into your third and your fourth years, work really increases by quite a bit. So yeah, that was basically my history. And I still did like a little bit of work after I left the society. Like I made a couple more graphics for events and stuff like that, and I still went to events and things like that, but I was a little bit more drawn back.
I think you taught a workshop, or you were thinking of teaching a workshop at some point.
Yeah, I didn't actually do that.
I taught a workshop.
Yeah,
She got me to teach a workshop when she was first starting the club to try and attract more members.
A Python workshop.
Yeah. So now for the tea, which goes back to the name of this episode. So what happened this past June that, really brought all this to light?
Okay, so in my blog post, I used a pseudonym, and I used the name Karen because we all know what that means. That was like the most annoying name I could come up with. But anyway, so we're going to call this person Karen. And this is somebody that I hired myself onto the board of people in February of 2018. It is also the person who took over the presidency for me after I did leave. And this person in June, I was just like scrolling through LinkedIn, and I saw their profile come up. I guess we weren't connected for some reason on LinkedIn. But I looked at this girl's profile, Karen, and I saw that she had listed on there founder of Women in Computer Science at St. Andrews. And I was like, what? Like, she wasn't even part of the society when I founded it.
Yeah.
Much less she didn't do the work in the months beforehand. It was like 6 months of work.
It was a long time.
Yeah, like before I even founded it. So I saw that was listed on her LinkedIn. She had also lied about creating the logo, which I made again before she even joined in January of 2018. I have messages where I sent it to Kaylee, I sent it to my friend Charlotte, like of the iterations of designs I was doing. And I was like, oh, what do you think looks better, like this color scheme or whatever. So it's just absurd. Like, I couldn't believe it as I was looking at it. She also lied about getting the sponsorships that I brought in. And then like the icing kind of on the cake was that she had listed that she was president and founder from January 2018 when she hadn't even joined, up to when she, I guess, resigned or stepped down, which was in June. And I just couldn't believe it. Like, the first time I saw it, I was like, I showed Kaylee. And I said, like, do you think this is a mistake? Is it possible that she just doesn't know what she's doing? But as I went deeper and I looked at her profile, she had also lied about, like, winning certain awards. Like, it was systematic lying. And I
that's right. You said there was an award that your society received a runner-up or a
second place.
And she said that the society had
She
won.
said they had won first place. Yeah. So it was like, it's clearly not just one thing that she's lying about.
Yeah.
It's multiple things. So when this happened, I like talked to Kaylee and we had a whole chat about it. And I decided to send her a message because this is one of the first tips I have for when something like this happens, when someone tries to take credit for your work. I would say you need to go first to them. Like, you need to go to the source.
You can approach them. And the thing was, too, is we wanted to believe that this was a genuine mistake where maybe she meant to put founding member, which even that is a little bit questionable. But
it is.
In this case,
because if anything, Charlotte was the one who was with me from the beginning. Yeah.
So we really wanted to believe that this person didn't have any kind of malicious intent. So we assumed that it was a mistake, and that she didn't intend it the way that it came across, which clearly it comes across as though she's trying to take credit for all of the amazing things that you did.
Yeah.
And not being honest about her contributions. So, we very carefully crafted a message where we didn't want to like place any assumptions, obviously, but also making it clear how you felt. Seeing that, also given that this person was supposed to be your friend and very actively claims that she is a proponent of supporting other women.
Yeah.
Which is why we were so surprised. I've also met this person, so I was really...
Yeah, like you met her, you knew her because we were part of the board together, and so you just, you're friends kind of. But yeah, I couldn't believe it, and so I sent her a message, like Kaylee said, and she did respond. She said something like, "Oh, I'm out in like town and I'm not ignoring you. I will respond when I get home," or something like that. And so I was like, okay, that's fine. Like, please take down the information as soon as possible because it's false. Like, she knows it's false. I hired her myself. Like, I still couldn't like comprehend it. And then nothing for a month. She just like refused to respond to
You sent
anything.
a follow-up message as well, I think.
Yeah, I think so. It was something like, "Oh, I also noticed that you lied about designing the logo, which I made," or something like that. It was as I went through her LinkedIn, I found like more things.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, she just completely ignored me for an entire month, and I was still friends with her on Instagram. I could see her posting on her stories all the time of like going out and about, and it was just shocking, I think is the best word to use. And it really does hurt because this is someone that I mentored her to be my replacement for president. And I couldn't believe it. And I thought she was my friend and all this stuff, but yeah.
I mean, I think too, just seeing this happen, I wanted you to start this club to create a space and a community for women in computer science to find each other, especially at a school that didn't have that.
Yeah.
And the fact that through that, this Karen, chose to, try and take credit for your work, very, knowingly doing this. And it's not a mistake. It was very intentional. But also, what I really want to call out, too, in this video is when you saw it on LinkedIn, what did you do?
So I reported it to LinkedIn, right? I have tons of evidence because I literally founded it. So I have, like, official union affiliation paperwork. I have all these emails that I sent back and forth when I was fighting to get the society founded initially. So I have all this stuff. I have a newspaper article that was written about me. I was interviewed about founding the society.
The school newspaper. It was
Yeah.
a big deal. It was a big article.
It was very exciting. So yeah, I have all this stuff. So I submitted it to LinkedIn and I said, look, like I am the founder. I am the sole founder. There is nobody else. And could you take this information down or like contact this person? And they were like, yeah, sure. So they took it down because I had so much evidence because I am the founder. And then like a day later after they took it down, I like checked her profile and they'd taken it all down. She put it right back up, like the same thing. She just copy pasted, like put it back up. So I contacted them again and I said, look, like she put it back up. Is there any way you can like ban her from putting certain parts of this in her profile?
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, we'll take it down again. Took it down again. This happened 3 times until finally, like LinkedIn, the way it works is they allow you to submit counter evidence. And they told me was she submitted some counter evidence. They wouldn't tell me what it is. They wouldn't tell me if they even like proved the validity of it.
Yeah.
They just said because she submitted something that, they're gonna let the information be up there, like this false information. And then I think it was like a day after that, she added something to her like little position. And it was a screenshot from an email that had been sent out. So right after I sent her a message and said, please remove this because it's false information, she or someone on the board emailed the entire Wix mailing list. And they did this whole like, oh, we're so sad that Karen is like stepping down from president and is no longer going to be president. And then they put in there like, she is the founder of Women in CS at St. Andrews. Yeah. And she literally screenshotted that email because that's all the evidence she has because it's fake. It's not true. And she uploaded that. So I am guessing that is what she submitted to LinkedIn. And despite the fact that I have like 20 pieces of evidence, they let that stay up. So I have lost a lot of faith in LinkedIn as a platform.
I have as well, because obviously there's no fact checking on LinkedIn, just as there's no fact checking on a resume. But you do know that if you get caught, people can fire you for lying on those places, because it's kind of built on like a system of trust. And especially with content moderation and LinkedIn, people need to trust LinkedIn. Otherwise, nobody's going to use LinkedIn, because they're just going to assume everything that people put on their profiles is fake. So I genuinely expected LinkedIn to handle this case very seriously, because this is not somebody who's done it once. It's a repeat offender who repeatedly put back information that was false and then submitted some sort of evidence, which honestly, since she's not the founder, we can only imagine what that evidence is, because it can't be real, because she's not the founder.
Yeah, it has to be fabricated.
Right. Fabricated or false, or whatever you want to call it. So that was really, it's a learning lesson. You see things on LinkedIn, same as social media, where people say it's all a lie or it's all fake. You do need to have a healthy dose of skepticism about what people put on their profiles, and also check it, but also it's like also a warning. It's like, you should also know that if you get caught, the consequences for these kinds of things are not small. This is not just inflating something the way that people say they're an expert at Excel when nobody's an expert at Excel. I mean, granted, there are people, but I've seen a lot of people put, proficiency in Microsoft Office Suite on their resumes, right? And now that might be inflating, but you've at least used them and done that. You're not stealing credit for somebody else's work. So yeah, I was hugely disappointed with LinkedIn when that happened.
Yeah, and even now, I mean, obviously you still use LinkedIn because it is a platform that everybody in the professional world uses, but I have also kind of moved away from it. In fact, like OwnTrails, which I want to shout out, is this website where you can basically make a trail of like your accomplishments, setbacks, hardships, like obstacles you've overcome, and you can also put in like personal life things that happened. And I just really like it because it feels a lot more inclusive, and also they allow you to appreciate someone else's trail. So like,
that's amazing.
It sends you a little notification every time someone like appreciates your trail, which is really sweet.
That's amazing.
So yeah, that platform's really growing, but yeah, check it out. Anyways, but yeah, I mean, what else should I talk about? Should I talk about what my university did?
I think that's a really important thing to call out, because whenever you see things like this happen, at some point, the people who are, taking credit for other people's work or lying, they need somebody to say, no, that's wrong. We kind of put trust in the institutions, right? So we put trust in like the law and things like that to tell these people like, no, you can't do that without consequences. And I was really shocked at the difference. I don't know if this is between the UK and the US, but in the US, plagiarism is a very big deal. You can be kicked out of school for plagiarism on a paper accidentally. Like that includes, using the wrong style of citations on your paper. You can totally get kicked out of school for that. And that's very, very serious. Like people take it very seriously here in the States. So I guess, do you want to share what happened? What your university response was?
Yeah, so after this happened, I went to my university because I told them so it's called non-academic misconduct, because technically it's a society, so it's outside of the academic realm. So anyways, it's non-academic misconduct. I reported it. I gave them all the evidence. I took screenshots of like her LinkedIn and screenshots of like the messages that I sent when I was creating the logo and all these different things. Screenshots of me creating the Facebook page and posting the logo back in January when she wasn't even a part of it. Anyways, I sent them all this evidence and I said like, look, here's everything, and like what can you do about it? So they responded to me and they wanted to, I don't know, just like delay as long as they could, basically. So one thing that they tried to do is like make me have a meeting with her, and I told them I've already tried to reach out on my own by messaging her, and she ignored me for an entire month. And then after that month passed, once I had reported to the university, she messaged me and she said, could I like give you a call sometime? So it was only once I went to the university and I was putting pressure on her, basically, that she reached out to me. And then, honestly, I blocked her because I was like, it's ridiculous that for a month you've been posting Instagram stories of you going out and, like, having fun and you can't respond to a message to me. Like, it was so insulting. So,
the worst part, too, I want to say, is that the toll it took on your mental health. Because
Yeah.
I remember I was so deeply angry and frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would wake up and think about this and
Yeah.
just be angry that somebody would have the audacity to do this.
I know.
And, like, all the systems along the way that failed you.
Yeah.
Because obviously this is your work. And this is kind of a big deal, because if that, you know, persists out there and somebody goes and looks and they say, oh, you know, we thought you were the founder, but we've actually found this other information that actually hurts your credibility, even though you're not the one responsible for lying, right?
100%.
So
Yeah.
I was so angry about this. So I remember when that happened, you got to ask yourself, like, oh, do you be the bigger person? Or, you know, like, what do you do? Like, you're asking yourself that.
Yeah.
And we kind of all said, you need to do what's best for you. Like, clearly this is somebody who doesn't care about you. This is not your friend. You need to do what's best for you. Blocking, if it means not talking to them or hiring an attorney and having them speak through somebody, then that's what you need to do.
Which is what I did later on.
Yeah,
We'll get to it.
because like, you need to, at that point, you need to prioritize yourself and your safety and your psychological safety, right? Because nobody else is going to do that for you. And
Yeah.
this is clearly somebody who wants to take advantage of you and not somebody who genuinely cares about you.
Yeah, and I will say that I think I was a little bit naive, because even when I first saw it on the LinkedIn, I was like, that's not, she must have made a mistake, or like something must be wrong.
I don't think that's a bad thing, though. I
think it's good.
You don't want to just have this, like,
Jaded.
cynical, jaded, all people are terrible and trying to take advantage of me, because I've met people like that and they're no fun to be around.
Yeah.
But you can also kind of understand how people get to be like that based on these kinds of actions.
Yeah, I
which
definitely
is really
understand.
disappointing.
And I do feel like I have never been that angry before, like, until when this did happen. And I still occasionally, like, I will reflect on it and get very upset and very angry. Like, I didn't sleep well.
Yeah.
I was having stress dreams. I would wake up at like 3 a.m., like panicked and anxious. And I think
you're not an angry
No,
or
I'm not
anxious
like that.
person. I mean, there's
Yeah.
like, you are not an angry person. I've known you my whole life. Like,
Yeah.
that is just not in your character.
Yeah.
And when she says angry, like, she just gets really quiet and introspective. Like, this is not, like, Ashley doesn't even, you know, she doesn't yell. She doesn't do anything like that. So the fact that this person had pushed her to this really bad place because of what they did is just, I mean, it kind of broke my heart, honestly.
Yeah.
And this is somebody, which, like, I know I'll come back to, but this is somebody who claims to be an advocate for women. Like, how can you be an advocate for women and steal credit for another woman's work? Like,
This is
don't
another
have
thing I
words.
want to talk about, because, okay, so we're rewatching the Harry Potter movies right now, and I
Yeah,
posted
we
an
are.
Instagram story, because we watched the one with Umbridge. I can't remember which one that was. Was it 5?
5.
Yeah, anyways, the one with Umbridge. And I posted an Instagram story, and I said, like, Umbridge is the type of woman who, like, got to where she is by putting down other women. And I do want to briefly talk about this, because I feel like we need to have an honest conversation about the fact that there are women in tech, in other, you know, in everything, who want to put down other women to get to the top, and, like, be the best of the women or whatever. And this is ridiculous. Like, it's a ridiculous concept. Like, we all need to help each other get to that high point. Do you know what I mean? So,
Yeah, because we're already competing against
oh my
so
gosh, I
many
know.
forces, right? There's so much in the systems already that disadvantage women. And, I mean, honestly, so many other groups. But it's like, if you start fighting amongst yourselves or pushing each other down, then, I mean, you're never, ever, ever going to build each other up. And, I mean, that's kind of the whole way that these places have been structured. Like, that's the reason that these things are structured the way that they are. It's it's to give you that scarcity mindset of thinking that if it's not me, then, or if it's not how does this phrase go? It's about, like, if I see somebody else there, she's taking my spot, but that's actually not how it is. It's like, oh, just create a new one for both of you. And I think that you're right. We need to just stop. We need to stop all that. Everybody needs to build each other up. Women need to support women. That's why I love that hashtag, the women empowering women.
Yeah.
I love that. Like, we need more of that energy.
It's about, like, all of us getting to there. It's
Exactly.
not about, like, fighting amongst each other. But yeah, another thing that I do mention in my blog post as well is that we already have to worry about men taking credit for our work, and we've seen throughout history men taking credit for women's work, and now we have to worry about women taking credit for, like, other people's work as well. It's ridiculous, and it just really frustrated me on a personal, deep level, you know?
Yeah.
Like a fundamental level.
Totally.
But anyways, I want to talk about, so basically my university did nothing. They sent me a lot of emails back and forth saying, like, oh, we'll talk to her, blah, blah, blah. And then finally I hired a lawyer, because it was getting to the point where they weren't doing anything for me or anything to resolve the situation. And once I did, I finally got a response back. And this was after I graduated. I think I had talked to them for a month-ish. And they sent me an email and they said, because you and her have both graduated, we aren't going to do anything. They said, we suggested to her that she should put founding member in her title and that she should remove the false information. But again, suggested. They didn't do anything. Like, they didn't tell her you have to do this. They didn't like put something on her academic record. They basically told me like, oh, good luck by yourself. Yep. So at this point, that's when I had hired a lawyer, and I sent a demand letter or a cease and desist letter, which is something that you can do. You can hire a lawyer and have them send this letter, and it basically lays out everything that they need to stop doing. Otherwise, you will sue them in small claims court. So yeah, that is basically all of it.
Yeah, I think so. And I think the last thing that we want to talk about is the importance. So I guess after, we'd kind of realized that nothing was going to come out of this situation. I also want to say that LinkedIn refused, the last time she put back the information, they refused to remove it, given that she'd submitted quote unquote counter evidence without a court order, I think is what they said. Yeah. So they've basically just thrown their hands up and said that they're not responsible at all for the false information on their platform, which is super concerning. But also, I remember after this kind of all happened, and I told you, you've done nothing wrong through this situation. I mean, literally, you were trying to do a good thing, and this whole thing kind of came about from you doing a positive thing, which was just, I mean, it's just heartbreaking, right? But I did tell you, I said, this is kind of why it's so important to take credit for your accomplishments. Yeah, which is what we want to publicly blast them out into the world. Like, when you're proud of something that you've done, post on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. I mean, like, make some noise about it. Like, really be proud of yourself. Promote yourself. Like, self-advocate, self-promote. Because I think that that was the other thing we talked about, is like, if you had done that, more people might have recognized that she wasn't the founder from the start.
And was lying about it.
And was lying about it because they would have known you, right? And they would have known that, like, you were the face.
Yeah, but here's the thing is, like, I am not that kind of person. I am not the person to, like, post, like, even if I get a job or something like that, like, I'm not the kind of person to post everywhere and be like, oh my gosh, I did this amazing. Like, but now I have become a lot more like that because I have I've experienced this, and this has happened to me. So yeah, I think it is important. It's not bragging. It is being proud of yourself and, like, what you've accomplished and what you've done. Yes. And I was even lucky that I was interviewed by this newspaper and I have all this official evidence, because if I didn't, then it would just be like my word against hers. But obviously I have tons of evidence. But yeah.
But that's exactly right. And that's why, even though obviously we're not in any way saying that if this has happened to you, it's your fault, but we're saying that that's why it's really important to take credit for your accomplishments, because these are the ways in which other people in your community know what you've done and can celebrate it, so that if somebody else does come and try to take credit, they might say, wait a second, didn't she post about doing this, months ago? And that's kind of the way that you're going to be able to build your credibility. And I think that's, obviously that's super important.
So the last thing I want to talk about was that once this happens to you, you see it everywhere. I started seeing like so many people that I follow on Instagram, like my friends in the Instagram community, posting about like, could you please report this account? It's pretending to be me. Can you report this person? They're like stealing my designs from my stuff. Oh, and that's another thing. Like, while this was happening, someone tried to steal my Etsy designs for my mugs. Right. And it was like, I couldn't believe it. I thought, oh my gosh, what is happening? Like, everything is going wrong. Everyone's trying to steal my stuff. And my mom told me, she was like, obviously this is horrible, but it just means you have like great ideas and people are trying to take credit for it. But yeah, you definitely see other people, like you recognize it more.
This is really rampant. And with the digital world, I think it's only easier. I hate that Instagram doesn't have an auto
to be verified or something.
Yeah, it doesn't allow you to be verified, and they also don't take your reports very seriously, which I've had a huge problem with.
You need to get like multiple people submitting reports, otherwise it won't get removed.
But you're right. It's everywhere, and you do start to see it, and it's absolutely horrible that people think it's okay to take credit for somebody else's work. And I think you need to call out the behavior. You really need to call it out. You need to make sure. And that was one thing I did want to say, is that, how they say imitation is the best form of flattery? there's one thing if it's imitation, and there's another if you're literally like copying and pasting and taking credit for somebody else's work without giving them credit. I think if somebody has inspired you, you know, like make sure you're crediting that. Like if you're posting and somebody's inspired you, shout them out. Tag them in a post, right? Or if you're creating artwork, say inspired by. I mean,
or you can even ask them and say like, is it okay if I make something that's kind of similar? And they'll, I don't know, they can say no as well. And you need to respect that, you know.
Exactly.
Their work.
But there's a big difference between imitating somebody and being inspired by somebody and then literally taking credit for their work. So there's a very not fine line. There's a bold line between those two. And they should never be crossed over. But yeah, you know, thanks so much for talking about this because I know how hard it is to talk about things like this. Like it's difficult to talk about, especially when there's so much like emotion and anger surrounding it. Yeah. But I really admire that you're taking your experience and sharing it so that people can maybe find some catharsis in knowing that you're not alone in having this happen to them, but also with, you know, providing your tips for the things that you can do to hopefully prevent somebody else from taking credit for your work.
Yeah. I think one very last thing I want to touch on is the fact that this person, Karen, who was president after me, after I stepped down, she was president for like a year and a bit, I think, maybe like a year and a half. I don't know how long exactly, but she did do a good job for the society.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Like she gained a lot she was very into like the social media stuff. I mean, I did like half the social media stuff when I was president anyways, but like she was very into that and she got a lot of people to join. She got a lot more guys to join the club, which is, you know, important. And she did do a good job.
She did a lot, yeah.
But it's like, this is another thing of people's greed. Like, she could have just stopped and said, you know what, this is what I did, and it was great.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of it. But instead, she had to try and, like, take credit for my founding it. She had to take credit for, like, my designs, my work, my getting the sponsors for the society. It's like, I don't know. It's just like, you need to realize that you just need to stop, you know, like, while you're ahead, kind of.
Yeah, and just be honest with yourself. And I don't understand this person's like full situation, but it's like you should be really proud of what you have done and focus on like your contribution. And, you know, it doesn't mean that just because you didn't found something that you didn't do something amazing.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, we have like a whole other episode planned about people posting on social media about their accomplishments, but like, you know, you should be proud of the things that you contribute and that you bring to the table that make you unique. But don't feel that, first of all, like by taking credit for somebody else's work, you won't get caught. You will.
Yeah.
Straight up you will. Like this world is so digital. Everything is recorded. Like everything, there's evidence all over the place, right?
I literally have messages from her saying like, oh my gosh, like when I offered her the presidency and I was like, oh, do you want to be president, take over for me? Yeah. She was like, oh my gosh, but you literally started the club and like you like did such a great job creating it and like all this is because of you. Are you sure? And like, I don't know. You're right. I have so many receipts because I have
show the receipts.
I have all this stuff. Like it's absurd to think this isn't like the 1800s where you're like, I'm gonna file a patent and someone else might file it before me and then I have no evidence. Like I have all the evidence, like so much evidence. But this is good though because I feel like I've needed to do it for a while and it's good that I got some space so I'm not like angry.
Yeah.
I feel like when it first happened I was just so like frustrated and I couldn't believe it. But one thing Kaylee also told me, which is great, is that she told me you just have to find your peace with it somehow. So I've found my peace by like taking time and reflecting and like writing this blog post and then like recording this video and I can finally like close out this like very crappy chapter of my life. And one thing I also wrote in my blog post is that I know that this isn't like the best thing that I have done like or will do.
Yeah. 100%.
Like founding Wix is great and I'm so proud of it and like creating this at this prestigious university that didn't have it before and creating this like society and this group of people. But I know, I mean, like I'm already doing like bigger and better things and I will continue doing so. Yeah. So I feel like if this has happened to you, just remember that there is so much more that you're going to do that is amazing and you should feel angry and like, you know, let that emotion out however it works for you. But at the same time, like at some point you do have to find your peace and kind of move on.
Yeah. Awesome.
Is that a good place to end?
Yeah. No, I think it is. Finding your peace and moving on.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all so much for watching. As you can tell, we bring you very real talk about the things that happen to us in our lives.
Honest content.
Honest content revolving around tech, our careers, things that happen to us. And we're really so honored that you have chosen to spend this time with us. So if you liked this video, please click the like button and subscribe below, and let us know in the comments if this has happened to you and how you dealt with it. We would love to hear your stories.
Yeah, I feel like it's great if people share and, talk about it. You feel like, oh, this isn't just me that this has happened to, and you can, find some peace with it. So, thank you so much for watching and for listening, and we will see you next week.
Thank you.
Thanks.